guys, Nick Thomas here at the Academy of Historical Fencing. I'm bringing you Humour at Home with the British military swordsmanship system during this epidemic once again. Now in the first video I gave you some overall ideas about how to train at home and the kind of things you should be doing, and then I introduced basic footwork, the lunge, and the cut 1 and 2, and specifically Rowad's method of recovery from cuts 1 and 2. Now he does openly state that they're not the only ways to recover from those cuts, but they're the ones he mentions and clearly considers important as a result. The important thing is that after you've launched a cut, is you get back to a safe guard really quickly. So just don't, stay in the end of a cut position unless you've got something very specific in mind. But as a rule, get back in terms of recovery of your feet and your sword into a good guard position when you finish. And the methods I showed you in the first video were two good ways of going through cut 1 and 2 and recovering from that. Now in this video we're going to be talking about cut 3 and 4, so a continuation from the last one. We'll go through a figure of 8 drill using cuts 3 and 4, much like I did in the last video. But before we do that, just a little bit more about the lunge again, because the legs are your absolute foundation. I mean, they're literal foundation, but they are the foundation of your fencing. Of course, it's important to get good cuts, good cutting mechanics and a strong arm for doing those kind of things. That's important. But your legs, you need to be able to move well, comfortably and confidently, and be able to get them out of the way when necessary as well. So let's just say a few more things about the lunge, because I mentioned a few bad habits in the first video, but let's just iron out a few more things. So in the first video, I mentioned that, assuming you're my opponent, my front foot should be pointing forwards at my opponent, and that's generally the case during almost all actions in this system. So whether I'm moving around in front of you, even when I'm traversing, it stays pointing towards you, and specifically, when I lunge, it still points towards you, because everybody turns in like this when they start, and sometimes years later, and bad habits creep in. Now, the bad habits creep into your fencing no matter how good you are. It just happens. All you can do is train as much as possible to iron them out, and they'll happen less and less. That's the simple answer to it. So more exercises more often. So when you are lunging, that front foot needs to point forward and the knee needs to go over the foot, which is another bad habit, is people turn the knee in, and they tend to go hand in hand, so that as the foot turns, the knee comes in as well. Now, this loses you reach, it's not very good for the recovery, and it also can, in the long term, damage your knee and your ankle. So many good reasons to not do those two things. So if I'm now from the side, when you do your lunge with a straight foot pointing towards your opponent and the knee over the foot. Now, how far it goes over the foot actually varies from system to system. So if you look to, say, a long lunge like you would see in Capoferro Rapier, for example, the lunge is long and deep, so the foot has gone over the front of, the knee has gone over the front of the foot. Military lunges, military saber lunges, tend to be shorter and more upright. So there's not so much bend at the hips, and there's not so much extension with the knee. So you don't need to go crazy with your lunges in British military swordsmanship. So from here, take roughly a shoe's length step, knee bends forward, it can go past the heel, it doesn't need to go as far as the toes like this. Just that. So you can take a slightly larger step, but don't excessively push the knee past, as we would say in Capoferro Rapier, and some other systems for that matter, like Maya as well, does things like that. Quite an excessive lunge. It's not an excessive lunge with military swordsmanship. Right, so talk about one other thing. Getting the shoulders, hips, feet in line. This is useful for general body mechanics, of giving a good long lunge and basically reach and speed and everything else.
17th.
So best way to do it
That's
is
a long
stand
time.
in front, feet pointing forwards,